You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGachy, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. You know I appreciate you very, very much. This is a super exciting episode. A super exciting episode. Today, I am talking to Steve from Thursday. They're an extremely important band to my generation, and I cannot believe that this actually happened. He's a super cool dude, and we really dig into the history of his gear usage and what that looked like then, what it looks like now, and everything in between. This was a really fun episode, and if you don't know that band, I seriously suggest giving them a listen. They are absolutely incredible, and I really love them. So this was a real huge treat for me. I'd like to say I hope you enjoy this as much as I did, but I don't think that's physically possible. That said, this is the next best thing. So one quick little bit of business, and then we'll get right to it. If you've been with me for a while, I'm sure you've noticed that the ads have changed. They are now sprinkled throughout the episode rather than piled at the beginning. This was due to listener request and the ever-changing podcast landscape. I got to feed the family, and that is what helps me do so. If that is something you really don't like, I deeply apologize for that, but there is an option for you. For $3 a month, you can get the ad-free version of this podcast that is available over on Patreon. It's very affordable. $3 a month is not too much, and it helps me immensely. You'll get access to the ad-free feed, and you will never have to worry about that again. Additionally, for $5 a month, you'll get access not only to the ad-free feed, but also to exclusive bonus episodes of the podcast. That's right, extra content. There are so many bonus episodes over there on Patreon, and honestly, it's some of my best work, I think, including this week. This week, I talked to Steve about aliens fairly extensively. We had a really great chat over there on the Patreon, and I hope you will join me over there for the extra bonus content and helping keep this weird little pirate ship afloat. I really appreciate everyone who's done that. I thank you so much. It really truly moves the needle. I can't tell you how much that helps. It may not seem like a lot, but when a lot of people get together, it really does make a huge difference. So thank you so much. And without further ado, let's get into this episode with Steve Pedulla. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have somebody I've been very excited to talk to, Steve Pedulla from Thursday. What's going on, dude?
Not much, man. How you doing? Glad to finally be on after all the scheduling stuff, so thanks for having me.
We finally did it, and I forgot to turn my heater off, so there, it's gone now. That happens all the time. But yeah, it's a bummer. I wish we would have kept our wires a little less crossed and messy because you were just here. We could have done it live. That would have been even awesome. More fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I didn't know where you were based. So yeah.
Well, maybe next time we can make that happen. We'll see.
Cool.
You guys seem to be pretty busy.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, we're currently on our last tour of the year. We're out with Cursive, just doing like a 2-week run. They're doing Domestica front to back, and we're doing Full Collapse front to back. So it's been fun. So and then we sprinkle in some other songs here and there on both sets. But yeah, it's been awesome. And we kind of bookended like it wasn't intentional necessarily, but like this year started touring with them. We started touring with them. And then we all went our separate ways. And now we're ending the year together too. And it's awesome because like we're super tight friends and like we just love touring together. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, when you guys started touring with them initially, that was like my reintroduction to Cursive. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, I forgot I love this band. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
dove back in after I saw that tour was happening. It's like, oh, this band's so good. I can't believe. I hate it when that happens, when there's something that you love and you keep up with, and it's impossible to keep everything in your brain. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
but the revisiting is always nice too. So that was cool.
yeah.
It
It's
was
like
a fun
rediscovering, like
experience.
it's almost like getting something new again. So it's nice.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So how has the tour been going overall? Has it been pretty smooth? I mean, you guys have done a bunch of different drops here and there. You were on a cruise. Like
Yeah,
there's all kinds of stuff happening. How's the year been in general?
the year's been awesome. It's been pretty crazy. Like probably busier than we thought we were going to be at first. But it's like everyone is playing catch up after the lockdown stuff and like the sort of more scary time of COVID, I guess. So it's
Mm-hmm.
you're everyone's been starved for it, so you're like, let's go because who knows what's coming next,
Yeah, I know. That was the biggest, well, not the biggest, obviously. There was a lot of problems, but for our household here, that
Yeah,
was the thing that we missed the most. It was like, oh, the live music. That's what my wife and I have always done. Like
right.
when some people take the kids and send them to grandma's so they can go to dinner and a movie, and it's not that we don't do that too, but we tried to reserve it for shows because there are
Yeah.
so many artists that we love, and
And you get plenty
now
coming through
doing
there,
this,
I imagine.
there's a lot to come through Portland.
Yeah,
It's kind of it's a bit of a hub for that stuff. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with location. It's in between,
yeah,
California and Seattle.
hmm,
So why not stop in Portland on the way down,
yeah, exactly.
type of thing. So you've been in the band for a very long time, and you've played guitar for a very long time. But when I talk to somebody who's, got the amount of experience that you do, one of my favorite things to do is, because this is supposedly a guitar podcast,
Uh,
is take the people through your rigs over the
oh,
years as much as you can remember. Like, what did you start out with when Thursday was first starting, and what are you playing now?
so when I first started with Thursday, I bought I had this old PV cabinet with like the silver rails on the side and with the old school angry logo. Um, but I
Yes.
bought I initially had like this old Ampeg Jupiter, I want to say. It's just very flat,
Hmm.
clean tone. It was just like, oh, that's a tube amp. Great. Let me get that. But I had bought it way before this. Anyway,
Sure.
shortly into Thursday, I went out and bought a Mesa Nomad 100. And I used
Hmm.
that for quite a while. It was kind of weird. Like, I I don't know why, but I always have been the person that's just like, oh, everybody has a dual rack, everybody has an 800, like I just didn't want to play the same amp. It just started off that way,
Yeah.
but then now I still do that, but it's not for those reasons. Now I'm just like, oh, I really like these better, you know. But yeah, but after that it was so Nomad 100. Then what did I go to? And then the next amp I bought was a Bogner Ecstasy Classic. And I was
Ooh,
using
yeah.
for a little bit like a matchless DC30 for cleans. So I was doing the split amp thing.
Mhm.
Um, pedals on both those rigs. So like started off with just the blue Line 6 modulation pedal. And that was
Mhm.
all I used in the beginning. Then slowly experimented like a compressor live, and I was like, this is dumb for my purposes right now. I had like this,
Right.
I had this like ridiculous like SKB used to make this pedal board that was like a pedal board like with all the power, and then like it had this thing that came up
Oh,
so you could
right.
put the two rack units in it. And this was back in the day
Yes,
when
I remember that.
yeah, this was back in the day when everybody was like, oh, you have to have a rack tuner, the other like late 90s, early 2000s like thing. So I had that for a while. Eventually got rid of that. But sorry, I had to go back for a second. But yeah, the Bogner was next. And then I started expanding pedals, added the the DL4 in there, and kept it like that for a bit. And I was running like a clean amp with the matchless, and even I did a line 6 for a clean at one point too. I don't remember which
Like a
one it
Spider?
was. No, it's like a Veta 2 or something.
Oh yeah, I
it was
forgot
like
about
really
those.
crazy. It had
Yeah.
like a ton of effects and stuff like that. Because it was like and it's funny going from a matchless to a line 6. People are like, "What's wrong with you?" You know. Ultimately, for me, the matchless was like, and I get it. I'm not stupid. Like I know the difference, but like for what I was going for, it just wasn't giving me that. Like I like going for super like ultra clean kind of stuff, and the matchless for me at the time, it might have been the one I got or whatever. It was like, first of all, it was so bright. Like no matter what I did, it was so bright and harsh. I've heard them sound great. Don't get me wrong. It's just in my application, it just wasn't the right thing. So then I was just like, I'm just going to try this other thing. I was working with line 6 at the time, and I tried that, and it was great for a little bit. And then after that, basically got to like, I started using a Bad Cat Lynx 50. Andy from Every Time I Die had lent me one as we went to the studio, and I was like, this amp does everything I want in one thing. Like I love the clean on it. I love the distortion on it. Like this is the one. So I just slimmed back down to the one amp situation. And at that point I was using like a line 6 M13 for effects. And it's funny because like, you know, it is people like some people really frown upon certain things with line 6. But I've always liked their effects, you know what I mean? And it's all how you use them and whatnot, of course. And they've only gotten better. Like all this new stuff, like now I'm on a Helix. I'm using that for effects and switching. And then my rig now is a updated the Lynx X, the bet from Bad Cat. And I blend that live with a Kemper, and then I control it with the Helix. And then use the effects from the Helix. Yeah, so like it switches both amps at the same time, so our front house engineer can use both amp sounds and then like spread them out how he wants to up front and stuff like that. And it's nice because it gives him one signal with like, not that there's a ton of bleed with mic, you know, with miking amps or whatever, but you get the clean signal as well from the Kemper. But the funny thing is the Kemper profile is also a Bad Cat Lynx. That is my other Lynx.
That was going to be my question. What's
yeah.
But it's set cleaner, I assume, like you.
Yeah, well, I mean, they both have a clean and a dirty on both, right? So like both amps switch at the same time. And our front house engineer likes to spread out the, like, you know, put one amp on one side and one kind of pan more to the other side.
Got it.
But he's been doing that even before. Like he was doing that with like those Palmer DIs that had the cab sim on it. So like, you know, a lot of people were doing that or whatever. But I do that. And then anyway, so like I have the Helix for effects, but then of course I can't, with how cool pedals are in the past, like always, but like, you know, the past, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, it's been that explosion of like all this amazing stuff happening. So I have like another board in addition to it, which is way overkill for what I need, especially on this tour. But it's like, I call it kind of like it's kind of like the toy factory. It's like mostly the weirder stuff that the Helix can't do, you know, like I have a Mel 9 on there. I have a Mel 9. I have the Ricochet, from Digitech, the Freak Out, the Astral Destiny.
I love the Freak Out.
Yeah, me too. It's incredible. Astral Destiny from Earthquaker. I have a Microcosm, which I'm still learning how to use.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like one of my favorite pedals of all time. I love the Microcosm.
It's so amazing. Good. Yeah, it's awesome. And then I just got, like, you can tell I have an addiction. I just got the LVX from Meris, and that thing sounds incredible.
One of my other favorite pedals of all time. It's so good.
It's so good. It's just like a low. At first, when I got it, I was like, okay, like this does a lot of cool stuff, but like the price tag on it obviously is pretty hefty. But then,
sure,
at first I was like not sure if it was worth it, and then the more I played with it and really realized how good the tones sounded out of it, and like the clarity, and like even the stuff that's supposed to be lo-fi it's lo-fi in a way that's super cool. Like it's there's more definition or something. It's not as like sort of crappy sounding. You know what I mean? It makes it's like a higher fi lo-fi, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It sounds dumb, but like it's just smooth. It's just smoother. You know what I mean? Instead of like, and I like that. But don't get me wrong. There's a time and place for everything. Like I just bought that new tape loss pedal from Chase Bliss. What's it called again? Is it called the tape loss? Generation loss.
Generation loss. Yep.
Yeah. And so like that one, you could do all the crazy stuff with the failures and stuff like that or whatever. But yeah, I also have a Bowman Overdrive on there. And
great pedal.
Yeah, I love it. And a Origin Effects, the Cali 76. I think that's all.
That is a board after my own heart right there. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
The LVX is great because when I make the weird music that I make, I usually have just this insanely stupid like chain of effects, and I'm playing the pedals up on a table as much as I'm playing the guitar for anything. And the LVX can do, like, I can recreate a lot of that stuff, not entirely, but really, really close in LVX by itself.
Okay.
Like, how you can take each delay chain and like put bit crushers and modulation and different things on each one. Yeah. I would do that in real life. And you can do it, a lot of that in LVX if you like start to menu dive, and you can place different things in the chain.
Right.
It's so deep.
Yeah.
But it's my favorite pedal to menu dive in because I can visually, they have a visual and they have a, like, I forgot how they labeled it, like an old
school one where it's
like a
just
text-based
like
readout.
Yeah.
And those never really worked for me in my brain. The visual one, I can actually see what's going on as if I was setting up a pedal board, sort of. And make sense of the chain that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. I took the LVX and my interface, and I borrowed a guitar while I was on a Nashville trip.
Okay.
I was by myself, so every night I'd come back to the hotel room by myself, and I said my goal was to like make a completed song with just the LVX and like some amp sims.
Yeah.
And I was able to pull it off, and it sounds just as wild and weird as anything else I would do. So yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon with that pedal.
That's awesome. Do you do like ambient kind of stuff?
Yeah, yes and no. It doesn't sound like a typical ambient. It sounds like more like horror movie type of thing.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. So it's not intentional. It's just kind of what came out when I just let go.
Gotcha. That's awesome.
Yeah, like plug in whatever I want to plug in and just see what happens and just go with it. And that's what came out. So
that's awesome.
I'll
have to check that out.
Embraced it. And I can send you some links to it. It's pretty weird.
Cool. I like weird.
But well, we're gonna get along great then. This is gonna be perfect. So when you are like thinking about, actually, I want to take a step back before I get into that question. It tells me a lot about a person when I'm asking about their rigs and they start with the amplifiers. People usually go like one of two ways. They usually start with the guitars and they kind of forget about what amps they were playing. You started with amps and we never even talked about the guitars.
Yeah, I know. I just as you said it, I realized. Yeah. All right. So going back, the first guitar I played in terms of Thursday, I had a 74 SG. Still have it, love it. Unfortunately, it's headstock repaired, happened twice, and like the neck headstock, two times that happened were my fault. The neck was thank you to one of the glorious airlines. So I don't really take that one out as much anymore, but I still have it at home and I love it. So I was mostly forever, I was like a Gibson person. I was always kind of like SG into the amp. Like I wasn't even necessarily super interested in pedals at first. And then that quickly changed. But anyway, sticking with the guitars. So started with the SG, was SGs. And then I eventually got a Les Paul Classic that I loved. I had bought a Les Paul Custom, and that was like always my dream guitar. And I was so disappointed. Like, I think I just got a weird one, that just wasn't suited for me. But I was like super nervous about buying another one. And then when I tried this Classic, I bought, it's awesome. But go ahead, what were you saying?
I was going to just note something about customs, because customs were always some of my dream guitars too.
Yeah.
Like, I always wanted a Les Paul Custom. Like, so many people in my favorite bands, hardcore bands and classic rock bands, and everybody was playing, like, I specifically wanted a white, like, Randy Rhoads Les Paul.
Yeah.
Randy Rhoads wasn't my big inspiration for it, but that's what everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say that.
Yeah.
But I'd played so many over the years, I began to think, oh, maybe I don't actually like Les Paul Customs, because I really genuinely didn't like any of the ones I would see it, a shop would post it, or I'd just be wandering around and I'd see one, I'd pick it up. Oh, sweet, maybe this is the one. Like,
yeah.
I like my super cheap special better than this thing, and then I finally found the one.
You did.
So it's weird how that works.
They're
Sorry,
out there.
I'm interrupting.
No, not at all. Because when we recorded Full Collapse, this is all coming to me now. Like, I think so. I did use the SG on it a bunch. But we borrowed, a friend of ours had I don't know what year it was. It was probably like current at the time, like a 99, 2000. He had a Black Beauty custom, and it sounded amazing. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, that's also one of the things where you're like, it does exist. There are good customs, but it's just so wild how different each one can sound. I mean, it's kind of true of any guitar, although I find Fenders more predictable so far with me. Like, if I buy like a Tele, they all sound like Teles, give or take. Like, the threshold is smaller. Like, they're like, you know what you're getting, kind of. But but so
I don't know why that is, but I agree.
Yeah. For the next record, I wound up going to. So we had gone on tour with Poison the Well, and I was just shocked that they were using Teles and that they were so heavy live. I was like, how are you doing this? Like, I didn't think it was possible. And they all had like Hot Rails pickups in the Duncan Hot Rails pickups in the Teles. The thing I liked about them was, like, they sounded really heavy, but you still had tons of note clarity within like a distorted chord, and we do a lot of that stuff where you're trying to like pick out some notes within the chord or whatever, but still have it feel like powerful, and so for the next record, I think actually Andrew, our keyboard player at the time, he had one, he had a Tele, put that in there, and so we wound up using that on everything. And eventually that's what I switched to, as my main guitar has been like a Tele for, over 20 years now. But so now it's mostly Teles. I have a 333 Gibson. It's like the satin finish. I think that's all the 3 means instead of the 335. It's like a satin finish dot series. I use that on a lot of stuff. I love the way that sounds. And then I also have, at one point, First Act, somebody named Jimmy Archie was working there, and like they were making.
I met Jimmy. He's at 30th Street Guitars in New York now. Yep.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Great guy.
Yeah, he rules.
I keep trying to get him on the podcast, and I can't quite get him. But
he'd be great on it for sure. He sees it all.
He comes up a lot. Yeah, he comes up all the time.
Yeah, but he was like working with First Act, and they were like actually making really nice custom guitars. And I got like this awesome, beautiful, like custom hollow body out of them with a Bigsby on it. And that thing also sounds amazing. So yeah, like it was one where I had gotten it right before we went into the studio for, I think the last record we did, No Devolution. And I was shocked that that became the guitar I used on almost everything in the studio. And I went nuts with it. They were like, you're like, as you're like kind of going through your process of finding your sound or whatever, there was a point basically where I was like, I don't want active pickups. Like, you think like, oh, the hottest thing, like the hotter pickups are going to be like heavier or whatever. It's like not always the case. You just like have to like go through it.
Not usually.
Yeah. And so I had put alternative eights in that hollow body, and they're like Seymour Duncans that are like just super hot. But they sounded great. Obviously, when you put those kind of pickups in a hollow body, the feedback challenges are crazy. But it was fun. I kind of tried to use it as much as I could for those reasons. But yeah, that's kind of the rundown. But still today, like I have my main guitar is a 2002 or 3, I think, Telecaster American Standard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Are you running the stock pickups in it, or did you go with the hot rails and
Hot
everything?
rails,
What did you end up doing?
Hot rails. I did hot rails, but like I actually not so long ago tried to do a thing where, Seymour Duncan, like anybody can call them and like they'll make a custom pickup for you, and and I basically asked them to make a hot rails pickup, but with less output, like so same EQ essentially, and still have it be a humbucker in a single coil size, but with less output. Because I was finding like that's where, and I could be wrong, but my theory was that like it was really affecting my clean tone in a way that was like it was like pushing it too much, I like for the distortion. I was like, cool, this is great. It sounds awesome. But like I was noticing like I was struggling more with those pickups in terms of getting a clean tone that I wanted. And I did that, and it was awesome. So I need to slowly change over, all of the other tellies I have to that one now. But same idea. Nice. Like it's just like that EQ that is sort of built into the hot rails paired with a telly I just love it.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Merit Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Meris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations and 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at meris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. I definitely played hot rails loaded tellies in the past, but it's been a long time, and you're kind of making me get that itch again. I'm gonna need to try that out.
Yeah, I mean it's cool. Like I just grew up on that thing of like, obviously now you realize like when you've been doing it for a while, like yeah, you can play heavy music with single coils, and it has a unique characteristic and a tone. But like I was so sort of trained, like not trained, but like I just got in this mindset of like, single coils aren't for the kind of music I play. You know what I mean? Like forever. And it's just like such a dumb, dogmatic view to have, because then you see all these bands doing it and you're like, oh, that's awesome. And even now when I do it, even if I like the tone, I get all freaked out. I'm like, but what's missing? Because I'm just so used to, like, so conditioned is what I was going to say about like, about that theory of like what those pickups are for. But it's like we just did a bunch of dates with My Chemical Romance, and like almost all the guitars, like most of the guitars that Frank was playing were single coils, and like I was like, this sounds amazing, So it's all application for sure, but every once in a while I'm like, all right, I need to change it up and have some single coils in there. I haven't done it yet though. So
it's funny that you mentioned that the MyChem tour, because when they came to Portland, I was noticing, like, of course, because I'm me, I was like paying attention to the guitar changes.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like watching, and I was telling my wife afterwards, so I'm like, even the guitar changes were perfect. Like, they used the perfect guitars for every song. Frank had his Novo out sometimes, but the like, Black Parade stuff, he was playing his custom, and I was just like, oh man, this is just perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I was so happy to see those shows. What was it like, for that tour was like gonna be the biggest thing ever, and then got totally derailed by COVID.
Yeah.
Which some people blame me for, because when they were coming to the Tacoma Dome, and I was messaging with Frank, and I was like, hey, dude, I'll bring up a bunch of pedals. We'll have a good time. He's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I was so excited for that, because obviously this is a huge tour.
Yeah.
And I said, and my wife's like, now this is like a year away, so don't get too excited. Anything could happen between now and then. I said, what's going to happen? It'll be fine.
Right.
I shouldn't have said that. It's all my fault. But what was it like when it finally did happen, and going out into those stadiums like that? Did you ever think of like this style of music would be a stadium filling style of music ever?
No, not at all. But when I've seen them a million times, and also like, we've known them since before they were in My Chem. So like we've seen their other bands, like, and like at the Loop Lounge or wherever, like, so we've known them forever. But especially the level that they do it on, and like how professional is not even the word. They're just so good and so tight, and like they do it right. You know what I mean? So like, it's like, yeah, of course that can work when you're executing songs that are that good on that level. Like, yeah, it's going to connect with people, and with them, it's like a rabid fan base, obviously,
Oh yeah, totally.
But dude, the other thing is, like, I knew Ray was always a shredder. Like, I always knew that, but like on this tour, I was like, he like leveled up,
dude,
so much, since they had stopped playing. I was just like, and the thing is with him, it's just like, I've seen him rip solos on, like a Les Paul, but then like he'll play some like harmony, and it still sounds like him, and he destroys it. It's not like he can only do it on one, thing or whatever. It's just like, it was pretty mind blowing to see like how like, again, I hate this word, but how professional, like they sounded so good. And I don't mean that in a way of like, like session players that are like amazing, but maybe clinical or something. I'm not saying all session players are like that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes that's the goal.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
They still have that like feel and stuff, but they like are so damn tight, and like, all the sounds are perfect. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's funny because my wife's not a big, this is a curse for her. She's not a big guitar person. She's a song person, if that makes any sense. She loves music, and she loves, she likes all kinds of different things, but she really is just more about like, do I like this song or not?
Right.
And so the guitars are kind of, sometimes they can get in the way. Sometimes it's too much.
Right.
And what she likes about them with Ray is like, he shreds, but it's tasteful and it fits the song. It's never too much. Even when he's like taking a big solo live, it's like, oh, she's always like, that was just the right amount of guitar solo.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I agree, because like in general, in terms of the kind of guitar stuff I like, I get it. Like, shredding is like, it's a crazy skill to have and all that, but like, I find, it's overused. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many people out there where it's just like, okay, cool, that's amazing that you can do that, but it doesn't do anything for the song or whatever. And yeah, sure, it has its time and place, and all that stuff, but like, like the way Ray does it, like, is super tasteful. And like, even like the solos are like kind of, they're more memorable. It's not like just like, look what I can do. It's not like American Ninja Warrior on like guitar. You know what I mean? Like there's like an intention behind it, a feeling behind it. And so that's what I like. I mean, I've always been the guy, like, my style of solo that I like is like a Billy Corgan kind of thing, where it's just like still super melodic and like it's stuck in your head, and you know what I mean? And it does have that like flashy like technique of like those shreddy things, but like are still grounded in the song. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I like. I can't.
Well, that leads
play
into
it,
the exact. I relate. I understand. That actually leads into the exact place I was hoping it would. Who are some others? You mentioned Billy Corgan. Who are some other guitar players that inspired you? Because I think what you do with the band is incredibly unique in the world of guitar, at least in my opinion. Nobody sounds like Thursday, and your playing is a big part of that, obviously. Well, who inspired you?
So I think it's kind of like Thursday is. It's a bit all over the place, but like a lot of the influences wouldn't be obvious. Like, for me, it started with like the glam metal stuff. Like I was a huge Def Leppard fan. It was like the first concert I went to and stuff like that. That's not stuff it sneaks in, but like it's not ever used in that same way or whatever. But like, I would say the things in terms of like direct influences that you may be able to hear is more like, Fugazi, The Edge, the Police in general, like that, those tones from Andy is just like, the chorusy, like kind of effects or whatever, like that kind of stuff. But for me, it was more the bigger influences were like the Fugazis of the world, like Quicksand, and like where it was like cool guitar parts and riffs and sounds, but also like we're talking about, like, I don't go as far as like the Billy Corgan thing with the, like, mine are just like shorter leads. They're not like solos. I never think of like a Thursday song having a solo. It's just like these sort of the sprinkles you put on top that like embellish like what's already happening is usually the goal. But I think those guitar players are, kind of where I go to the most, where it's like some cross between, like, if I had to just pick three, it would be like, well, I'll count Fugazi as one, even though we know it's two, right?
That's fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
Like The Edge, Ian and Guy, and who else was going to say? And I mean, Pete Townsend was another big influence. There was someone else I was going to put in there, but you know how it is. There's always a million. But like, I got very into the whole delay thing and like using that musically, like, because when you're a kid and you hear U2 play, you don't understand why it's cool. Like what is he doing? Which to me, this was a telling thing. Like, did you ever see that It Might Get Loud in Here documentary?
Oh yeah.
So like,
I love that.
Yeah, I did too. But in a way, I almost felt bad for The Edge in that context, because like his stuff is so much part of a song. Like when you hear it out of a song, you're kind of like, that's what that is. But it's like amazing in the context. You know what I'm saying? Like when you just like, it's the same like when when I first started playing with Thursday, and if I'd be like, family would come over and be like, oh, play us a song. I'm like, if I play you my parts of the song, you're gonna be like, what the hell is this? Like, it's so ingrained and attached to the other things, like, and that's the thing you sort of learn. Like, it works for a while. Like Tom, the other guitar player in the band, like our parts sort of meshed together. Like they leaned on each other to become one thing so often, and like that. Eventually you start to like flush that out and use that as a tool where you don't do that all the time. But in general, that was kind of always our thing, where it was like just one of the parts on its own wouldn't necessarily be the coolest thing, but like together they like just like really like came together and made sense. But anyway, that's what I felt like when I was watching that It Might Get Loud in Here. It's like the parts and tones and stuff that like Jack White and Jimmy Page have, like, they're amazing and they stand on their own, but then they would cut to the edge and you'd be like, yeah, well, in this song I do this, and you would play the part, and it's just like you're like, yeah, it's cool, but it's not as nearly as cool as it is in the context of the song. You know what I mean? Which I think is awesome. It sounds like I don't mean to sound like I'm bagging on him. I'm not at all. I'm just saying like that was like a perfect way of seeing how his playing is like really ingrained in like being a bigger part of the song, as opposed to something that could just stand on its own, you know?
It's kind of, that movie it's a weird turning point for me, because at that point, you know, I had tried to imagine myself maybe more like Jack White, as far as my playing goes. But in reality, especially as I went further and further down the pedal rabbit hole, it's much more The Edge than it is Jack White. Like,
right.
He, even the point where like I remember a scene in that where he clicks his memory man off.
Yeah.
And he plays the part. He's like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And with the delay off it doesn't sound cool at all.
Yeah.
Because he's playing the delay as much as he's playing the guitar.
Right.
And so he clicks the memory man back on, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden there's that sound again. This is fantastic, right?
Yep.
And at the time of my life when I saw that, I was like, well, that's lame. Like, you should be able to make cool sounds without that. You know?
Right.
And then as I went further along, I just didn't understand. You know, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And now I do. So it's just, we all get a little older and grayer and
out,
hopefully.
yeah, exactly. You're like, yeah, it's funny. I mean, so that was like, excuse me, that was like a fun thing. Like, so after we did World of Time, we did A City by the Light Divided with Dave Fridman. And his whole thing was just like, he really made you feel comfortable being like, I don't care if it says Casio on the label. If it's right for the song or it's cool, it's cool. Like, forget about this. Like, I don't want to use this line 6 thing because the stigma or whatever, you know, it's just like, it's so stupid. All that stuff. Like, you just got to throw all that out and like, whatever works and sounds cool. Like, that's the way to go. You know what I mean? On that record, like, for example, if you just told me the idea of a Variax, I'd be like, oh, like, that's so weird. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about, right? The line 6, like, modeling guitar, right? But they had sent me one, and I was like, oh, like, you know, like any gadget guy, I am curious. Like, I was like, I don't think I'll play this live or whatever. And then I had showed it to Dave, and we were working on the song, and it had like a sitar setting on it. And and like, we talked about the song, we worked on it, and then I was like, oh, I have an idea. And as I was walking out, he's like, looked at me, he's like, sitar? And I was like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, let's try it, you know, like, whatever. And it wound up being awesome. And now it's so hard to recreate like that sound. I've figured out some ways around it or whatever, because like that guitar that I've had, it's seen, but it doesn't really work as well anymore. And but anyway, like, that's the thing, is like, it was a cool effect. And like, sometimes we would try to play that song and I didn't have some there, and it was just like not the same. Like, it's the tonality of it like really adds to the intention of the song and the feel of it, and it just sounds wrong without it. And it's not to say that like the part isn't right. It's just like, that's part of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny because, like, you know, so many people go like, well, if you can't play the song on a guitar or vocal, like, it's not a song. It's like, you can still do that. You know what I mean? But like, for it to be presented the way you want it to, like, those are all part of the instrument, you know? If that makes sense.
And I don't agree with that mindset at all, really, because there's lots of great music out there that doesn't have any guitar on it. You know, there's a ton of like weird electronic stuff. There's a ton of hip hop stuff. There's a ton of stuff out there that's great music that doesn't have guitar on it. And I'm not trying to bag on guitar. Obviously, I make my living in the guitar world. I love guitar, but that's just a kind of a ridiculous mindset to have. And I know people that have said it. If you can't just sit down with an acoustic and one singer, then it's not a good song. And like, I understand what you're trying to say there. That like the bones need to be there.
Sure.
But that's not a true across the board statement.
No, yeah. I mean, and I meant any instrument, like a piano, whatever. But like, yeah, like exactly like you're saying, like,
right.
Just because you don't hear the bones, like, doesn't mean it wasn't built on that. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of ultimately the thing. But yeah, I just, to me, it was always like, who cares? Like, if it works, it works,
Yeah. I think that's a great mentality to have, because I remember I've told this story a few times on the podcast, I think, but Pro Guitar Shop used to have a physical store in Portland years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they were, one of the premier pedal dealers at the time.
Yeah.
And so I went in there many times after work to buy strings, quote unquote, and I'd end up with some ridiculous fuzz pedal.
Yeah.
But I remember I bought a couple pedals there one day, and this guy behind me was like, he was there just kind of hanging out. He was like, what do you got there? And I was like, I don't even remember what it was, like a Mad Professor and some other boutique thing. And he was like, oh, that's cool, man. Those are really great. It's not like some crappy Boss pedal. And even at the time I was like, Boss pedals aren't crappy, dude. They're indestructible. What are you talking about? Maybe they're not cool. I think they're cool now. They've become cool again. But at the time, this was, 2000, I don't know, 10, 2008, somewhere like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. They weren't cool in some spaces, but it's just, if it sounds good, it is good. And that's all there is at the end of the day, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was interesting too, like that you mentioned Boss, like there's they just released that, I think it's called the Terraform pedal or something like that. Have you seen that?
Are you talking about the Terra Echo?
Terra Echo, not Terraform. I got mixed up with the Shellac record.
Yeah, Terraform's a Wampler. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Oh, I see. That's a Wampler delay pedal.
Yeah. Okay.
Or no, modulation. Wampler modulation pedal. Sorry. My brain. Anyway.
But it was crazy because I thought it was. I was like, oh, this will be interesting. Boss is going to try to get into the like sort of wackier sounds, like out of their comfort zone or whatever. But when I went and played it, I was like, this is cool. But you feel like you find the end of the pedal that quickly, you know what I mean? Like I was like, not quite, like it was their attempt at like an Earthquaker pedal or something, you know what I mean? But that is also interesting too. It's like those pedals, like a Boss pedal is like right there. It's very easy. And like, here you go. Like we were just talking about how like a microcosm, it's like, no, you have to learn how to use that thing, like any of the Chase Bliss stuff. It's the same deal where it's just like, it can be super overwhelming, And I know some people are like, this is just too much, but I've got a few of those that I love too. And again, like, like say a Mood or the Habit, like those pedals are like, okay, give me a few months, to a degree. I mean, I know like you can plug them in and make some cool stuff happen, but like if you're trying to like know what you just did, then you have to spend some time with it. But I think that's cool. Like I like that both things are possible now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely what pedals have turned into is really cool, because now there are sounds and ways to craft them that have literally never existed in the history of music before, which leads to obviously some very interesting and cool possibilities. And I feel like people probably felt that way in the 80s when they had all this cool rack gear. But to see how far it can really go, it makes me excited for the future to see what's possible. Who knows what's going to happen next.
It almost makes me think.
One thing I wanted to ask you too is, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, it almost makes me think like, where can it go? Because like things are so insane right now, I'm sure it will. Like it'll like everything, it always evolves. And like, I think you're right. Like it is going to just get cooler and crazier, but like trying to imagine what that is at this point is like so tricky, like you're like, I don't even know what that sounds like, But sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so, obviously you spent a lot of time thinking about what you're using on different parts in the studio. As things have evolved, has that impacted your writing process at all?
A little bit. Like I feel like I definitely got to a point where I was relying too much on pedals. Like, so I've been trying to do stuff where I have been writing a little bit more minimally and then bringing that stuff in. Although that being said, like even on my live board, like right now we're doing Full Collapse and then a couple songs. Like I don't need all this extra stuff I have like at all. But the reason I have it there is because sound check, those mindless times where you're just like messing around and you just turn on a pedal maybe that you haven't tried before. Like, I feel like there's always these like magic moments that happen. And then sometimes that's like a thing where you find like the basis of a song, or like a cool intro for a song, or a bridge, you know what I mean? Like, so I keep like, even on my live board, stuff that I'm not necessarily going to use live in terms of the set list, but like know that I can like turn on something any second, any chance I get at a sound check, and like see what happens, you know? And then you just like grab your phone and record it or whatever, and like take a photo of the damn knob settings and all that. But I mean, I think it does, it has affected writing for sure. And like, that's part of it, right? Is it in that way. But then there are times at home when I do just like, my goal will literally be just like, I just want to go downstairs and make some noise and like play like with a couple different like pedal chains or something. And then inevitably something comes out of that, like where you're like, oh, this could be a basis for something, you know? So it does, but I'm trying to like balance it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to like have a balance of what's relying on a pedal or not, you know? I mean, I know some people don't like that. Like, some people don't like having to have a specific pedal to be able to play certain things. Like imagine Minus the Bear trying to like play their songs without a DL4, without several DL4s. You know what I mean? Like, but I think that's awesome. You know, that's amazing. It's really not much different than being like, well, if you don't have if Dave doesn't have his DL4s, don't get me wrong, that dude's incredible. Like, he would do something amazing without him, you know, and he does. But in the context of that band, it's like, it's almost as important as his guitar in that context. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
So I think when it works like that, it's cool. You know what I mean? And obviously Dave has shown, like, with all of his projects, that it's not just about that, but it's amazing that he took those pedals to somewhere a lot of people hadn't thought of, you know?
We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby, because let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblissaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
I don't even think Line 6 probably thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Thing, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think so either. Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the end of the episode here, and
Okay.
I've got some questions from the Tone Mob Facebook group. So I want to make sure I squeeze those in before we drop off here.
Okay.
there's a few just like, dude, like people very excited about this episode. So that's
awesome.
That's pretty cool. I didn't give them very much notice because I always forget. I should do this like a day or two before, but I'm like, I'm recording with Steve in 20 minutes. So
right.
Give me your questions.
What do you want to know?
But we got a few in here. Yeah, we got a few in here. Sonia Quartzleaf, she's a big supporter, says, what is the favorite thing to do while traveling and pass the time? Also, Thursday has been one of my favorite bands for nearly 20 years. Keep up the good work. So yeah, favorite thing to do to pass the time.
Oh, man. I mean, so right now, since it's still, COVID is still fresh, just being around your friends again is the best thing, you know? And especially when you have someone like Tucker in your band and that dude just makes you laugh nonstop. I think that's my favorite thing. But other than that, I'm a big movie guy. I try to watch as many movies as I can. But right now it's been more about like, I just want to be around people, you know, catching up on my, or relearning how to be social almost sometimes, where, you know, like when you first got out of the pandemic, you're like, wait, how do you talk to people again? How do you go hang out, you know? But yeah, I mean, right now it's literally just like we can sit in the front lounge of the bus and have the best time, just like having coffee in the morning. So like I'm good with that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about Tucker. I spend about, I don't know, 20 minutes to a half hour with him and the rest of the Future Violence when they were here. And you're right. He made me laugh about every 5 minutes or so. There's something he would do or say. He's just a great dude.
Exactly.
An incredible drummer. Drummer. Let's see. Here's a very specific question from Blake Lawson.
Okay.
How did he pull off the siren guitar sounds in Autumn Leaves Revisited from City by Light Divided?
The siren guitars. So there's a bunch of stuff happening in that song. I'm not sure if they're referring to the like slide guitar part, but that is just like a slide with a bunch of reverb and delay on it. For there's like a slide lead, but then there's like tons of. When we recorded that, Friedman was like, I want to make, like, let's just do a bunch of tracks where you just go in the room, don't even put your guitar on, and just like kind of like hit some notes on the guitar, like while it's on a stand, and then just manipulate pedals. And then I did that for like 3 takes front to back, and like, you know, expression pedals and twisting knobs and all this stuff. And like, it's definitely one of those things where it's like recreating it is like impossible, you know, like to be exact, you know, like I've tried to reverse engineer some parts and I'm just like, I have no idea like how I did that thing or whatever. And so we did a bunch of takes of those and then just like comped it all together in a way that worked with, because like that song has like a haunting vibe, and like so like those layers are just like kind of help create that mood or whatever. So I'm not sure which, because there's siren-y things that happen in the noise parts, and then there's also the slide part. But there's like a couple. I would think it's probably the slide with just like delay and reverb on it, and just like sometimes just like floating around whatever the like root note is, and just like letting it do its thing, you know, like so it gets dissonant and then it comes in, and you know, that kind of thing. So nothing crazy, and lots of experimentation, you know, like. Well, it's crazy, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I love that. Yeah.
All right, we're getting down to the last bit here, and this is where I have a couple classic questions that I wrap the episode up on.
Okay.
But before I do that, I like to give the guests a chance to take the stage, say whatever you want to say. You've got a few thousand people listening right now, and you know you can shout out your aunt, or you can plug anything you want to plug, or you can get anything you want to get out into the world. Now is a good chance to do that.
Well, I don't have anything new to plug, but, you know, just I'd say thank you to everyone that's like still listening and still cares about the band. We'd never thought that, like, you know, over 20 years later, we'd still be touring and people would still care. And so thanks to all them. And then, you know, all the brands and people that we work with, like, you know, Line 6, Seymour Duncan, Fender, DR Strings, like probably missing like a Dunlop, like, you know, all these companies that help support all their artists. Like, thank you so much. You know.
All right, right on, man.
Yeah, I'm always terrible.
Here we go. Classic. I feel like I waffle back and forth between whether I should warn people about that or not, because some people I really like their just like immediate response. Yeah, but then some people it's like, oh, I wish I had more time to think about it, and I understand, but I don't know. Maybe
no, it's all good.
Maybe we'll see what happens in the future. But the final questions, and this will actually go back to something we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
My favorite Boss pedal, I would say it's the RE201, the tape echo, the original one that they put out. Mm-hmm. The dual pedal that's like mimics the Space Echo. I haven't tried the new one, so I can't say that one yet. But I really like that one.
I really like that one as well, and I think when you get a chance to play the new one, you're going to be stoked because the new one is awesome.
All right, awesome.
It's so good.
Maybe that's cheating because it's like the bigger Boss pedal, but
I think it counts. It's a pedal made by Boss.
All right, there we go.
Pedal. Yeah. All right, and this is, you know, coming from where you come from, I know this is probably something that has been discussed many times and it can get kind of controversial from time to time, but what is your favorite kind of pizza?
Like favorite, like with like what toppings are, or you're saying place?
Get as specific as you want to get. Like I get real nitty gritty with my answers there. Like, you got a favorite pizzeria, you got a favorite style, you got.
I feel like in where I grew up, New Jersey, New York, there's so many good options. But I grew up with a pizzeria downtown called Donna's Pizza, and it was incredible. And just their both their regular cheese slice and Sicilian slices were incredible to me. Mm. But I also grew up when it was like and this was before, you know, like I love now all the like more artisanal stuff where it's like the really fresh crust and like the sort of new ovens. I don't even know, like kind of brick oven-ish, but like you get the personal pizzas that are like just like next level. Those are my favorite now.
Yeah.
But it's funny, I talk to people about this all the time now. Like, it used to be like in New York, which was very close to me growing up, you can go anywhere and get a slice and it would be really good. Now I'm like, what happened? You know, like it's a struggle, like to find just like a good slice. Like, there's a couple spots, but it's not like it used to be. But so I'll stick ultimately with Donna's in Palisades Park, New Jersey.
Is that still there?
It's still there. Still there.
Oh, yeah. Another reason I got to visit New Jersey.
Yeah, there you go. The good news is it's right over.
Keep racking up.
Yeah, it's right over the George Washington Bridge, so it's not that terrible commute.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for hanging out. This was a blast. This was fun for me.
Yeah, thank you. You had a good time. You too. Yeah, I had a great time. Again, sorry it took so long to make it happen.
Hey, I knew it was going to be worth it. This was excellent. Thank you again. All right. Well, we'll go get real weird over on Patreon. What do you say?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right, everybody. For Steve, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, there you have it. There's another episode in the can. And I, again, really hope you enjoyed that. I had a great time. Please go check out Thursday. If you've never heard of them somehow, do it. Treat yourself. Go check out that band. They absolutely rip. And if you would like to hear more of this conversation, as I said in the beginning, head over to patreon.com/tonemob, where for $5 a month, you can get access to bonus episodes every single week. There is a ton of content over there for you, so much to pour through, and I'm releasing more and more all the time. That really, truly helps me immensely. If you can do that, it really is huge. I cannot tell you how huge it is. So thank you to everyone who does do that. Thank you for listening. Please share this with somebody. Maybe you got a guitar person in your life that needs to hear more chatting about guitar. Or maybe you have a Thursday fan in your life that needs to hear this episode. Please share this around. Sharing it with your friends. Hey, force your friends to listen to it. If you're in a car ride right now, just make them listen to it. Maybe they'll get addicted just like you. All right. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you on the internet very soon. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
This is Krista Makes, guitarist and vocalist for Less Than Jake, and host of Krista Makes a Podcast, a songwriting podcast where every week I'm joined by an amazing guest to break down the writing, recording, and release of one iconic song from their career. In our giant evergreen back catalog of episodes, we've had rock legends such as Dee Snider and Huey Lewis, punk rock favorites like Mark Hoppus, Fat Mike, and Brett Gurewitz, and up-and-coming artists of today such as Liz Stokes of the Beths and Genesis Owusu. We've had guests from all genres and styles of music, and I guarantee that if you peruse our back catalog, you'll see several episodes that'll make you say, man, I gotta hear that. Whether you're a fan of music or a creator of music yourself, you'll take away a whole new appreciation for the songs you know and love. Krista Makes a Podcast is available for free on all the places you could possibly listen to podcasts, and new episodes come out every Monday.
Hey, this is Scott from Fly on the Call. Each week I speak to a different musician, whether they're in an established band like Silverstein or the Wonder Years, or a band on the rise like Spanish Love Songs, Origami Angel, or Meet Me at the Altar. We discuss music and lyrics, the successes and challenges of being in a band, and more, as we get to the core of each artist. The show features musicians of diverse genres and backgrounds, so there's always a chance I'll be talking to your new favorite band. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.